evening, everybody. Welcome back to Simple Art for Adults. My name's Erin, and we are finally making it to part 3 of our color along here in Nice Little Town 5 by Tanya Bogema Stolova. So far we have colored the walls of the house, and I did just want to point out that after the last one where we finished those up, there were 2 little areas that I missed. So if you guys want to pause the video and go back to those previous colors before you follow along here, that's perfectly fine. Just go ahead and pause it, and it's right here in this little part of the house, and then these little walls over here. I completely somehow forgot those. I'm not real sure how I managed to do it, but somehow I did. So that is I went ahead and finished those up before the video. I'm trying to find my little sheet to protect my hands here. I have one somewhere, I just don't know where. I thought it was right here. I'll just go ahead and use this little slip of paper for now. Okay, so today what we're going to do, what we're going to be working on is coloring all of these little roofs. And we'll probably take those same colors and go in and do some of the window frames too. Just depends on how long the video turns out to be, really, how much we'll actually get done. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. The colors that we are going to use, now I wanted them to still be kind of nice and earthy, but I wanted them to be different, of course, from the walls. So what I picked from light to dark are Pompeian red in the Polychromos, burnt carmine in the Polychromos, and red violet. If you are paying attention to the numbers here, that is 191, 193, and 194. Let me put my hand up there. Try to move these to where you guys can see them real well. So what I'm going to do, and we're going to just kind of follow the same principle that we did when we were coloring these walls. I'm going to go ahead and start with these colors, and I'm going to put them everywhere. I'm going to start at the top, and I'm just going to put a really light layer of our lightest color, which is the Pompeian red. And somebody had asked me, you know, how I managed to do these lines. You know, honestly, I know I'm not really using a ruler or anything. I'm just kind of trying to follow the image. And as you can see, I sketch out the little line there to try to make it more noticeable. And again, I'm just kind of using the side of the pencil here. Really light pressure. I'm going to turn my book just a little bit so I can get my other line sketched in. There we go. I just want to go ahead and apologize ahead of time. I think my neighbors a couple houses down may be having a party. They're a little loud today. So if you hear screaming children or bass in the background, that would be them. It's not too late though, so I don't really want to go over there and tell them to turn it down yet. If they keep going when it gets too late, well, that might be a little bit of a different story. I'm going to turn this again. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of try to follow and really lightly sketch the edge there. There we go. Just to give me like a little bit of a guideline so I know where I'm putting color and where I'm not. Yeah, so now they're outside yelling. So hopefully that won't last too long. I think the guy is a truck driver or something, so he's gone for several days and then comes home for several days. I'm not real sure. So I'm just going in, light layer. And this is going to have like a reddish, earthy, purplish hue to it. I've already put the colors down, which is this. The Pompeian red, burnt carmine, and red violet. So that's what we're going to end up with when we're finished, or something close to that. It may not be that saturated, of course, because of the paper that we're using. But it should be pretty close. So I hope everyone's had a wonderful last week or so since the last video. I've been trying to get this video done for the last week, and life has just been crazy and busy, and I just haven't managed to be able to sit down and color really hardly at all in the last few days. So I'm pretty excited at this point to be able to do this. We did hear some pretty terrible news today. For those of you who subscribe to Always Coloring and are familiar with Katrine, she has passed away. It was confirmed by a loved one on Instagram. The post on Instagram had mentioned that she had a blood clot in her lung, so it was she was not in any pain, didn't suffer, and that individual, and I'm not certain who it was that did the post, but that individual said that there would be one final color along in her honor. So if you guys want to head over to Instagram and check that out, you can see what's happening there. There is going to be a tag associated with that particular color along as well if you want to participate in her memory. So that would be something, you know, very, very wonderful to do. It's really sad and tragic news. So, you know, unfortunately, everybody's, you know, my thoughts and prayers are with her family and her loved ones and friends, and of course her thousands of fans for her YouTube channel and on Instagram. So at this point, I'm aware that the color is not going down particularly evenly, and that's okay. At this point, as always, we're just kind of in the beginning stages of the process. What I used to refer to as the ugly phase. It won't always, you don't start out with it looking amazing, especially when you're first trying to get used to your new pencils. Alright, so that's our first layer with the Pompeian red. So now I'm going to move into the burnt carmine, and just like we did on the walls, I'm going to put this in places where we would probably see some shadow. So we're going to put a light layer right down underneath the cap here, just on this side, and as you can see, I'm not taking it all the way down to that edge. I'm just kind of going around. And then we'll put it right here. My sinuses, guys, are a little bit stuffy, so I apologize if I sound stuffy. So I'm putting it just pretty much everywhere that I think there would be a little bit of shadow. So we've got this little ledge around here, so I'm going to put some there. I'm going to add it to the bottom, right down here, and bring it up gently, because this is going to help create a more three-dimensional look. It's going to make that mushroom top look more rounded and natural. And I'm going to go right in here, and I'm going to make this just a little bit darker, of course, because that's also going to be in shadow. Same thing right here. I'm going to carry this color right over to here, all the way over against where the picture kind of cuts itself off. And I'm just going to gradually bring it up closer to the center. And again, guys, at this point, we're not trying to make it pretty. We're just kind of putting our colors down. So this way, when we do decide to go in with a little bit heavier pressure and more layers, we know where we're putting each individual color, and that's going to really serve us as a guide to help us get our shading correct. Okay, so now again, to make it look more rounded, I'm going to come up here. Trying to keep my hand out of the way as much as possible without moving my book. I think I've gotten a little bit better at that. I used to turn it like crazy. There we go. And then I'm going to put a little bit more right here, just where it's got the artist has given us the texture there. So that's pretty good. That looks pretty good. So now I'm going to come up here, again, where this texture is, and pull it up. gradually less as we move upward. And then over here as well. Okay, so behind these leaves, we're probably going to have a little bit of shadow, but not much. So I'm going to go ahead and add some color behind here. Behind the foliage. That's not all leaves, I suppose. So how's everybody been? How's your Christmas in July and Nautical Neverland coloring been coming along? For those of you who are doing the sectional challenge, I have seen some really, really pretty pictures in the album so far. I'm hoping to get mine finished up this week. I haven't gotten as much of it finished as I would like, but I really do hope to change that this week. Trying to keep up with, you know, work and obligations, and also find time to color the picture and get this color along done. It's been crazy. I'm excited though. I was ready to color. I'm glad I have the opportunity right now, so I should be able to get it done. And I'm also working on a picture for the Christine Aldrich artist focus over at A Colorful Life this month. Her book Flowers and Flyers is one of my favorites. So I'm really super excited to get that picture done. I love how it's looking so far. I'll be happy when it's finished. All right. So I do believe, let me put a little bit down here along this bottom edge. Just a little, I don't want too much. Again, just to help make it look round. Okay, so finally our last color is going to be Red Violet. I'm going to go back and put it in the same places that I put the last color here, but I'm not going to bring it out quite as far. I'm just laying it right on top of everything else, right around those edges to serve as a shadow. So I'm going to start here, just bring it out a little, not too far. And up against this edge, if you'd like, go ahead and go a little bit dark, but make sure that you lighten up as you come out toward the center, because that's what's going to help you when you put the other colors on top. That's what's going to make that nice transition without any harsh lines between your colors. Okay, so now I'm going to come right down here along this. There we go. And then I'm going to come back under here and just make this a little bit darker right up next to that edge, because I don't think I put it in there quite dark enough. Okay, so we're going to come down along this bottom now. So over here it's going to be a little bit darker because of all the texture. So this indicates that it's all kind of like wrinkly and gnarled right there. So we're going to make it a little darker in this area. A gnat just ran across my page. We had the porch light on earlier for the front porch, and I swear that every time we turn that porch light on and we go out and we come back in, like 100 little bugs follow us because they're all like trying to go into the light. It's funny. All right, so again, I'm just kind of outlining down here close, all the way down here by the edge. Getting lighter as I come up toward the center right here. I'm going to put it in a little bit darker to start off with. I'm just outlining at this point just around here. And then I'll come back in very, very lightly, pull the color up. There we go. That looks good. Same thing up here along the top of the little rim where the house is tucked into. just not very much up here. I don't want it quite as dark there, but I do want some of it. And we've got a little bit more of that texture, so we'll bring it out just a little further there. Up underneath the window. All right. So now as far as getting back behind all the leaves and everything, I'm going to put some, but just barely. I'm not going to put very much. I'm only going to put like a real small amount, like an outline almost. I don't want to outline everything because then it'll be obvious that it's an outline, and we definitely don't want that. We just want some of the splashes of the darker color back there. All right. There, I think that looks pretty good. Now finally, we're gonna go right over here. We're gonna outline kind of just right up over the little area where the house is. Gonna put our color in just slightly darker where the texture is. And here. And I do believe, I think that looks okay. Looks pretty good. We don't want a whole lot of our real dark color in there. It's just going to serve as a shadow. All right, so the next step is to come back in with the burnt carmine. Go over the red violet. Darken up the burnt carmine that we already put down there. But be very careful that we don't use it too harshly. Because again, we've got to come back in one more time with that Pompeian red to finish this off. I'm going to bring it down like right there a little bit more because that is going to be tucked in back behind the building. So it is going to be in a little bit more shadow there. It's going to be a little darker because we brought that color up further from the bottom than from the top. So there's going to be more of it here, and then up here, just a little bit less. Now, as you guys can see, I'm just kind of going over the circular motions, not too hard of a pressure, but definitely trying to make it darker than it was. Same thing back here, not too awful dark, but enough that where you can tell that we're making a shadow. There we go. Now I'm feathering this up a little bit more so that it's not such a harsh transition into our next color. Same thing here, I'm just pulling it out. Alrighty, and then all we have left is this area over here. Bring it up and out. Same thing here, up and out. And then ever so slightly along that little ledge. Alright, so now that we have all those colors in, the next step is to go back in with the Pompeian red. Nice and sharp. And start filling it in. This is where you're going to see the differences in the colors. They're all very, very rich colors. This Pompeian red, I think, is one of my favorites. It reminds me almost of like a coral lipstick, and I really, really like it. So I'm just kind of going over everything with it, trying to fill in that tooth. Now I'm not pushing really super hard. Just, you know, kind of a normal pressure, really. Doesn't take much when your pencil is good and sharp to get in there and fill that tooth in. And it won't hurt your hand as much either, so that's always a plus. Again, when we're using darker colors on this paper, this is where you're really, unless you're going to use a blender pencil, this is where you're really going to see the tooth of the paper show through. And this is why I'm such a huge fan of the blender pencil, especially on this paper. You're still going to see some of the tooth, and that was another comment that I was getting on the other videos was, you know, I use the blender pencil, but I can still see the tooth of the paper. And that's going to happen. This paper is just so textured. It's textured in a kind of a strange way. So there's not really much of anything that you're going to be able to do to hide that texture. It's always going to show. The blender pencil just makes it not as apparent unless you like really look close. And that's good enough for me, guys. Now, once we get this color in, if you go back and look and you feel like your darks aren't dark enough, you can always just go back and add more. Because again, we're not burnishing. It's so hard to actually burnish this paper that you know, you have room for almost unlimited layers, really. So we will have room to go back in and add more of the red violet if we need to. And I'm trying to rotate my pencil a little as I go, because that keeps like the very, very point of it nice and sharp. And this way I don't have to sharpen my pencil as often. There we go. And then all we have left is this area. And then we'll look and see how our dark colors held up. Oh, I forgot a little spot up here. There we go. I do think I want to come back in with my red violet and darken the dark spots up just a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Remember, still dark only in the areas where we made it dark before, and try to feather it out as you come up toward the center, because even at this point, if you don't, you're still going to get that harsh line, and you don't want that. So I'm just going around the very edges, and now I am using a hard pressure because I am trying to get it, make it visible. I want that dark color visible. So this is the red violet. And I'm putting, like, those little crevices, I'm just going ahead and filling those in. That looks a lot better. But dark back in there a little bit. This over here I'm not going to worry about so much. Back behind the leaves, because I don't want that to be quite as noticeable. It'll look more realistic that way. Okay, and I think that's pretty much got it. So now the next thing I need to do is just go in with my blender pencil and try to fill in all that too. And this is going to require at least medium pressure, maybe a hard pressure, to get all that color to move and go down into the tooth of the paper. But the best part about this is that you can be kind of quick about it. You don't have to... Essentially, you're burnishing at this point. Not only are you pushing the color down inside the tooth, but you're kind of trying to flatten the tooth out at the same time. So, we will finish that, and then our first mushroom top will be all set. Now be careful when you're doing this that you don't go over those lines, because if you go over the line art, in some of these books, the color will, you'll pull the color out with you and you'll end up with mud. So it's going to be tricky, especially in places like this where you have a lot of line art to work around. But we can do it. Actually, I'm going to save that part for last after I sharpen my blender pencil again. For now, we're just going to get these areas. So if you use a circular motion, that's going to help pull your dark colors back up into the lighter color. Make a better blend. Now, for those of you who don't want to take the time to get the blender pencil out and do all this extra work, you can use Gamsol or odorless mineral spirits or Zested or whatever it is that you happen to use. You can use an alcohol-based marker, but if you're going to do that, make sure that you have your sheet behind here because it will make the colors bleed. If you are going to use Gamsol, make sure that you have plenty of pigment down first and that you don't go back over with your pencils until it has completely dried. Otherwise, you may end up with color more saturated than you had intended. Okay. Let's get over here. And I have some color that's managed to smear. So I'm just going to use my eraser. I have just a white vinyl eraser. And I'm going to go over this area to get rid of all that extra color. That's what I get for not using my paintbrush that I can't find. There we go. Excuse me. I found it. I just got to get it out. There. Now we won't have color everywhere. Alright, so there's our very first mushroom top. At this point, I'm going to take a short break, go sharpen up my pencils, and then we'll come back and do the smaller ones. And we'll have the outside of these pretty well done except for the trim. I will return shortly. Alright everybody, and we are back, and I am going to start in on coloring the rest of the little roof areas and things that we have going on. I've just noticed a couple little smudges that I want to clean up some. There we go. Alright, so we're just going to start over again with the exact same process that we used this last time. I'm going to start with the Pompeian red, and my pencils are nice and sharp. I'm going to go in and add it lightly. I'm not sure how I'm going to do the undersides of these yet. I think I may use the two darker colors and bring in like a nice dark brown so that the underside will be nice and dark when compared to the tops. Again, I'm just sketching out my little line there. We're not worrying about it being pretty yet. I think the neighbor's party has finally ended. They were quiet. They were quiet while I went to check my phone battery and delete some old stuff so I had more room. Let me get this other light turned back on here so you guys can see a little better. There we go. That lamp's running off battery power, so I try to turn it off when I'm stepped away from the desk. Alright, so there's our Pompeian red. Now I'm going to come in with burnt carmine, which is the middle color, and I'm going to put it everywhere that there would probably be a shadow. So back behind this little hump, we're going to put some, bring it down to right about here. Maybe carry it up just a little bit further. Same thing here, we're going to put it right along here, and then up just a little bit around the window. Same on this side. Then on the bottom here, I'm going to keep it not all the way down. I don't want to take it all the way down, but most of the way. Because I want to leave it like light right around through here. Gonna put it all the way around the edge. Not too much of it though. And then everywhere that there's one of these little ridges, I'm gonna add just a little bit. It's gonna make it like a little bit more 3D and lifelike, even though it's clearly a cartoon. So I'm just kind of putting it up on top of all the little ridges here. There we go. Alright, so that's where all that color is going to go. Now I'm going to take my darkest color, which is red violet, and I'm going to put it in the same places that I put the burnt carmine, but just not as far up. Well, let's see. Yes, I'm going to come down under here. I hope you guys can still see. I have to put my hand in a comfortable position. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and go in darker with the red violet. Again, making sure that I lighten my pressure as I move upward. Darker along the edges there. I'm going to go back in up here and darken this up as well. But then I'm going to make it kind of fade outward. That looks nice. I like that. Same thing here. And then the same along these little ridges. Alright, so that's nice and dark in there now. And it's dark pretty much everywhere that I want it to be dark. So at this point I can come back in with my medium color, which is the burnt carmine. And I'm just going to kind of take it right over the darkest color and darken it up a little bit, pull it out. Same principle as we did on the last one. Just we have to be a little bit more mindful of all these little ridges and things that we have going on here. And because we have so much of that, I'm not putting it like all the way around, because I think that would just end up being too much of the dark color, and I don't want that to happen. So just putting it where I have to give it the texture that the artist tried to give it, basically, is the point here. Alright, so now that all that's in, I'm coming back in one more time with Pompeian Red, and we're going to go over everything and darken it up. And again, you know, normally if you want something smooth, you're going to color like in small ovals like this, but because of the type of paper that we're on with these pencils, it's not really necessary. You can go back and forth, you can kind of go however you want to go, as long as you're making sure that you're using the same pressure throughout. Before we get there, guys, I forgot a little spot right here. I want to add some of the darker colors right in through there. There we go. And then again, when this is when we get this color in, we can go back and look. It looks like we may need to darken up the red violet just a little bit more again, and that's okay. That's why learning how to layer is such a valuable skill to have. And the Polychromos, some of them are more transparent than others. And as you work with them more, you kind of learn which ones are going to go over top of the other ones and which ones are, you know, going to kind of leave it more transparent. And that also helps. There we go. So I'm going to take my red violet and I'm going to go back over the areas that I want to be a little darker. I'm just putting it in the same place and being careful, you know, not to leave any harsh lines anywhere. Move that little flag out of the way. And that's better. And then finally, again, I'm going to come back with my blender pencil. And I'm going to burnish everything, push it all down into the tooth of the paper, and try to smooth it all over. And this should get rid of a great deal of the white space that's left behind. It'll also kind of help to blend those colors together. So I'm going to brush this off because of my dust from my blender pencil. I don't want to smear it all over. Okay, now that one's finished also. And I do need to sharpen my pencil back up and get back up in the little area that I meant to come back and do behind these leaves. And I also missed a couple little spots over here, apparently, that I couldn't see very well. So now that my pencil is a little sharper, I'm going to come in and get around these leaves. I'm trying to be careful to avoid the line art. I don't smudge it. In some places, you know, it's really hard to avoid, if not impossible. So if you smudge it a little, you're probably never gonna, you'd be the only one to really know. Alright, so those two are finished. So now we're gonna come down and work on this one. And again, it's the same thing. Just gonna take my Pompeian red, lightly go over the entire area. So here in Kentucky, the weather has been, like, for the last week or so, it's been so nice. We had some really nasty storms that rolled through Friday, I believe it was, but since then it's been kind of like off and on cloudy, maybe a little bit rainy here and there, but the temperatures haven't really gone above 80 degrees, and the wind's been nice and cool. So I'm not complaining. I'm really not. After, you know, cooking basically for the last several weeks. Yeah. Alright, so now I'm taking my burnt carmine, and the same principle here applies. I'm just putting it in all the places where there would likely be a shadow, and everywhere where I want to create the illusion that there is something round. So I'm putting it down in here. So I went all the way back into this part. Now I'm going to come up above this little ridge. And this one as well. Same thing here. We're just going to go in between these little ridges. Bring it up. I'm going to put a very small amount down around the edge. We have a shadow back in this area because of the roof here. But then aside from that, it's just going over the top of the little ridges again. And you can see I'm kind of darker at the ridge and then kind of bringing it up and tapering it off as I go up. Alright, and now with the red violet, and I'm kind of sharpening before I go in every time. So now with red violet, I'm going to go, we're just going to dive in and go heavy right along the edges where we are going to want that darkest color to be. And back here against the roof. I'm pulling it up a little more here. Because for the last two times when we went in and added the Pompeian red over it, it's really had an impact on how much that red violet stood out. So I'm trying to apply it just a little bit darker now. I'm hoping that that means we won't have to go back and add quite as much. And then now that that's finished, I'm coming back in with my Pompeian red. And just like the last couple times, heavier pressure. I've got a little bit of dust, so I'm going to knock it away. And it's really covering up that red violet. I don't think I put it in there quite as dark in that area. And I'm just putting the color down. And then once we get it all in there, nice and dark, I can go back in. I didn't put the red violet here and I need to. I can go back in with the blender pencil, smooth it all over. So it is Monday night. Right now it's about 9:45 p.m. Now, of course, I'm Central Time. I have been drinking coffee all day because I have been tired, like all day. I've been so busy all day. And I thought, well, you know, I'm just going to drink coffee. And I was tired even after I drank the coffee. Like, I even remember saying, I don't think this coffee's doing much of anything. And now that it's, you know, 10 o'clock at night and I stopped drinking coffee a couple hours ago, now I'm awake, of course. I'll probably be awake at 1 o'clock in the morning. And then my alarm will go off at 5:30 and I'll wonder why I'm tired all day again. Sigh! Alright, so there's that one finished also. So now all we have left are these two down here at the bottom. I'm going to start over on this side because I am right-handed, and if I start there I won't smudge it as much. So I'm going to sharpen my pencil up. Put in my little line there. And I think that this is also part of that because there's like a little bitty line right there. And I think that that's going to be kind of where it starts off into another little bump and goes somewhere else. So again, just really lightly putting in the Pompeian red to start. And I'm using a back and forth motion because if I see pencil strokes at this point, it's not really going to make a whole lot of difference. Because I'm coming back in with so many more colors. Then I'm going to take my burnt carmine. I'm just going to put it back in this entire little area here. Because that's going to be almost all in shadow. And then we're going to go back over where we have the little ridges. And we don't have quite as many ridges on this one. But we do have like a little lip here, if you guys can see that. So I'm just going to go ahead and color all down in that, the darker color. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up here, all the way up to this one, and above it. And then I'm going to go around the corner. I don't think that'll look too bad. I need to put some down here too. We're not going to have a whole lot of the darker colors in here. So, this one should actually go pretty quick. Now I'm going to outline with my red violet. I'm pushing pretty heavily to start. And then I'll slowly feather it up some. I'm going to go right above that ridge. I'm going to go over it several times so it's nice and dark, because I do want it to show through once I get the Pompeian red back in there. Let's see. over this way. And that's pretty much all of it we're gonna have. Just a smidge right here, and that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna darken it up right in that spot. And then again, that's all of our dark colors, so I'm gonna come back in with the Pompeian red and fill it all in. And again, guys, I'm using a side-to-side motion. Normally I would tell you to go in small circles here, but with this paper, you're not really going to be able to tell the difference either way. By the time we come back in with the blender pencil and push it all down in there, it's going to look like we used small circles anyway. And this is just quicker. I mean, you can use small circles if you like to color that way. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing it that way. As a matter of fact, I'm probably doing it the wrong way. But considering how long we've already been here, I'll brush away the dust. And then my blender pencil needs a good sharpening. And then I'm going to take it and go in the smallest areas while it's good and sharp. Get around the edges while I can. Now I've been thinking about how to do the window frames and things, and I think what I'm gonna do with those is actually use the same colors, the same brown colors anyway, that I'm gonna put in the tree. And you know what I did? I need to put the red violet back in that little, back here in this little nook, because I forgot all about it. I'm gonna just leave it just like that. I'm not even going back over it. I'll just leave it like that, because it's gonna stay dark anyway. Alright, make sure I've got all the white space filled in. And I do. Brush it away. Brush the dust away. Alright, so now all we have left is this little part here. So, now this part here is going to be a little different because we've got one part of this top that's kind of tucked underneath the other, so it's going to be a little more shadowed in that spot. I got foliage here, but this is not. I have to kind of appreciate this artwork because I don't feel like I have to kind of guess what things are. And with some other books I really do. I have to guess, you know, is that part of the house? Is it part of the roof? Is it part of something else? I don't know. I can't tell. And then you find yourself, you know, going to Pinterest and Instagram and trying to find where other people have colored the picture to see what they made it and whether you think that looks right. But with these books, I don't feel like I have to do that. I feel like it's pretty easy to kind of tell what things are. Alright, so I'm going to take the red violet, or not the red violet yet, the burnt carmine, and everything that's back here, I'm doing in the burnt carmine, that little spot. I'm going up under the little porch area and pulling it down. Also back here and pulling it up. So you know what, we might as well just fill that whole little area in with it. And then right around here, because that's going to put a little shadow. Okay, so same thing here. We're going to have some shadow in this spot because there's a little ridge there. some texture. We're going to have some shadow back here where it tucks up under the other side. And then we're going to have shadow all through here where the little textures are. And then all along this area too. But I'm also going to go down along the bottom to help make it look a little bit more rounded. So in this case, we might as well just pull it up all over this whole area. And then down underneath, leaving just the smallest little hint for our lightest color. And I think that looks pretty good. So now with the red violet, we're going to darken everything up that needs to be good and dark. So we're going to start over here on this side where the one part tucks into the other. I'm going to make it good and dark. I'm going to go over these little textured areas. And basically when it comes down here to the edge, I'm just like going to outline. And when we put the Pompeian red back over it, it's going to help cover some of that up so it's not going to look so harsh. And we're going to try to make that look a little more distinct. And we got to tuck it back up underneath the little porch. And then this little area back here, this whole thing might as well be done in the red violet. All right, let me make sure I have enough of it in there. And I think actually this time I'm going to come back in with the burnt carmine because there's just not very much dark. So I'm going to take my burnt carmine, I'm going to go in with harder pressure now. And I'm just going to kind of pull, not going all the way over the top of the red violet, but I am going to pull it out a little further. Lighten my pressure as I go up toward the center. Oh, we need to put some red violet back here. There we go. So again, I'm just kind of putting the red violet back in, or the burnt carmine back in. I'll get my colors straight someday. Because I don't feel like with this one there just wasn't enough dark color there, and it wasn't going to look, there wasn't going to be enough variation. All right, so finally, we're coming back in with Pompeian red. Darkening everything up. Making it look more solid. All right. And, oh yeah, that last layer of burnt carmine is really going to help a lot. It filled in enough of the tooth that the Pompeian red isn't going to really oversaturate it like it has before. So we don't even have to go back over it. Nope, it looks fine just the way it is. Alright, so now I'm going to sharpen my blender pencil. And I'm going to start like over here. Actually, I need to brush some of that dust away before I make a mess. I'm just going over everywhere that I can see some white. And basically I'm just trying to push that pigment around, make it fill in those little white spots. All right, brush that pigment away. All right, and that is it for our mushroom house roast. Let me zoom you guys out so you can get a look at it. And I think it looks pretty spectacular. I think it looks pretty good. I like those colors together. I'm going to write the colors that we used here down. What I might end up doing, just to try to get them in the picture somewhere else, I may end up using them like in the rug or, you know, on her dress or something, so that we get them in there somewhere else. When we kind of do like the wood panels and such, I think that's going to be wood. This looks like metal, but we're going to do the tree, the wood, probably some of the frames. We'll do like the sticks that are down here. We'll do pretty much all the wood, the door. And except for in the tree, when we actually do the tree, we're going to add some gray, because live trees that haven't been treated and stained, they're very rarely like actually completely brown. So that is it for part 3 of our color along in Nice Little Town 5 by Tanya Bogema Stolova. I hope you guys are really enjoying this. I'm sorry that it's, you know, so slow in getting these videos out. Hopefully though, I'll be able to get another one done just like in a couple of days, and we'll be able to get through this in the next week or so. But, you know, like I said, it's not going anywhere. It's going to be here for you guys, so you don't have to stress out if it's a few days and you can't get to it. The videos aren't going to go anywhere. They'll be right here for you. Alright, I'm going to put links to the Polychromos, the Nice Little Town coloring book, the Tagal adjustable pencil sharpener, and everything that you saw me use here in this video today. I'm going to put a link down in the description box, so if you're interested in purchasing any of this stuff, it'll all be there for you. Those are affiliate links, so every time you make a purchase, it does help support the channel, because the affiliate links give me a small commission for every purchase that you make. If you have not subscribed to the channel already, please go ahead and do so. There's the button right down there. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up so other people can see it, and that's one of the best things that you can do for support. I do want to thank you so very much for tuning in today. I appreciate it, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week.